Welcome to the LifeLine Master Series. Enjoy this interview with Colette Baron-Reid. Colette,
Yes, Lovey.
welcome to our LifeLine Mastermind course, where we get into really the heart of people that are making a big difference in the world, choosing to be someone who shines bright and be their fullest expression, step into the ring and show up day after day. And you are one of those people that chooses to show up. And I am honored just to spend this time and connect with you and just have some fun dialogue, as we always
Awesome.
do. Yeah.
Great. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Very excited about your course too. I know my husband took your course, and as you know, I have experienced your work, your extraordinary work firsthand. So I'm so excited to be part of this and to help you.
Well, in love and gratitude. So I've got a question for you. You
Mhm.
know, there's a saying that goes, happiness is found along the way, not at the end of the journey.
True story.
Right on. And would you say that along your journey that you're following a calling, that you have a calling?
Yeah. I would say I'm following a yelling. Not a calling. I don't call this a calling. I call this a yelling. And if I get off track, it like smacks me on the head. Like, I would say absolutely 1,000%, and more than one. I will say I have a calling for the arts. I have a calling for music, but I really have a calling as an intuitive, and I would say that I was born to do the work that I do. So, and when I work, it's interesting, especially as a medium, which is not something that I ever expected I would say, but I find myself divested of myself, which is an extraordinary feeling when you're serving just for the sake of doing the thing, right? Just for the being the conduit for the messages. So, yeah, it is quite an extraordinary thing, because I think part of having a calling is that it's very little to do with your ego, and everything to do with your spirit. It's not, people think, oh, I have a calling to become famous. No, you might have a calling to do music and then you'll get famous. Or you might have a calling to do this and then that will be a byproduct. But I just have a calling to be my fullest potential, and in my quirky way, my very unique way, because each one of us has a unique note to play in the symphony of life. It just so happens I talk to dead people, I teach oracle cards, I create them, I write books, and that's just where I landed, and I'm grateful.
I watched this video of you yesterday with your messages from spirit, and you just rocking it out as a Harley babe. And you did this reading with this woman whose father came in, and he said it was about the dance that.
Oh, that one. Yes. A beautiful blonde girl.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
Yeah. That was from Motorcycle Medium, the Messages from Spirit Tour, and then we created the webisodes for Motorcycle Medium. So, yeah, that was amazing.
No, it just, I mean, you just are just talking really fast, really quick, detailed information about her dad, the gruff intensity of this man, the friction between the mom and the father. It's like, how do you go about interpreting from another world, from another realm?
I receive information. I mean, you've seen me work a number of times, and we're close, right? So, and I've turned to you when I've had too much of the work too, when I haven't been able to be grounded. So, it is about moving away from the self. So, in other words, we're typically self-centered people. We are self-aware. So, I have to move away from myself, step beside myself in a way, and allow myself to experience it's a memory for me. It's like I'm remembering all these pieces of information about these people, and for me it's the motivations. I don't see the superficial things as clearly as I see how people are motivated and what their their energies have done to the other, and what the velocity of their lives have done to themselves, and what their emotional content has created out in the world of form. So it's less about the events and more about what precipitated those events and what the meaning of those events are. And so I experience them as if they're already digested, and then I have to put the pieces together. And where it gets wonky is when I'm trying to get approval from the person in front of me, because I'm feeling all these feelings, and I'm getting all these pictures and images, and a lot of times the person in front of me doesn't remember their own name because they're so freaked out
in the spot.
It's very intimate. It's like I'm an intimate part of the whole story, and it's temporary. Do you remember when one of your LifeLine practitioners, I think that's one of the stories I wrote about in my book, Messages from Spirit, and for the life of me, I forgot her name for now.
Madge, I talked to her this morning.
Madge, okay.
I talked to her this morning. I haven't talked to her in months. It's so funny that you brought her up.
Yeah, you bring her up, right? So her son, this was when I was still touring with
his birthday today.
Oh, that's so weird that we're talking about him. Oh my God, Madge has to see this. Oh, this is crazy. I was thinking about him today. And that is so weird. I have not thought about that young man. And I actually found some of his things that she had sent me.
Oh, wow.
Oh, this is really freaky. Okay, so here's what's really odd about this. So today I was thinking about the most powerful moments when I was describing my experience as a reader, and how I didn't want to own that I was a medium, and how I refused it. I had a big chip on my shoulder, and that there were other ones who had trained because I was not trained, etc. So I just called myself an intuitive, and I still didn't even want to call myself a psychic. And we were in Tennessee, in Nashville, Tennessee, and I was in the bathroom. I was in the washroom, and I kept seeing pictures of a yellow tricycle, a little yellow tricycle. And I kept being obsessed about broccoli, Chinese broccoli that was called Kai Lan. And that was the name of Chinese broccoli. So I had no idea how to put this together, but I sure as heck knew that I had to bring this message through. And somebody would claim it. I'm like, I don't know why, and his name was Kylan. Kylan, right? And the little yellow trike, she had a photograph of it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the anniversary of his passing too. That was, so that's weird that it's his birthday today. Hey, Kylan.
Well, even, it's so funny, and
freaking me out.
we're brother sister, but I'm driving my daughter Joya to school today. She's in 6th grade, and she still blames you for eating her scone. But anyhow, and we're listening to Barry Manilow, I Can't Smile Without You, because we love listening to the Love station on the radio, and we're having this conversation, and all of a sudden in my mind, I just hear, "Hi, Madge. Hi, Auntie Mazza. Hi, Madge." So I say out loud, I say, "Hi, Madge," and Joya goes, "Why are you saying hi, Madge?" I'm like, "I don't know." I'm like, I just started thinking about her, and I'm like, wait a second. What's today? Oh, it's Kylan's birthday, April 6th.
Okay, this is freaky.
Right. So then I called her, and we had this long conversation. It's so funny that you're bringing her up. So,
well, okay.
It's wild.
This is really.
And I just want to bring something up, because I think it's so interesting, because you said you step back, and rather than being in the personal space, here you are, and you act as you get this memory. Right. You get this memory, and it starts to come through, and it's like where it starts to become fuzzy is when you're looking for approval, when you start to become Colette again, but
and I have to bounce back and forth, because I have to deliver the message and then ask, and it's a very fine line between allowing their reflection, right, to come back, like, and what I know to be true, and to allow them their process to get to that place, or at least to help me figure out what it is that I'm seeing. So, but the approval piece is the hardest piece, because you want to know that you've helped that person, that you were accurate, and that you didn't really know, right? You didn't know, you just don't know, right? So, and that's so odd. I can't, well, you know what? I don't know why I think this is odd, because this happens to me all the time, but it's wonderful. And I have to say that because I cannot plan for anything when I'm a planner. So the universe was like, oh, we're going to give her this job where she can't plan and she has to stay out of the way and she can't get involved in it. She can't control this. And she just has to shut up and open her mouth on our behalf. These moments like today, the synchronicity of the fact that it's Kylan's birthday, and I wanted to tell that story, which I haven't told in years, right? Why today, right? And also the fact that, the calling, for example, is something that in a way frightens me. So, and it's funny, people don't understand that about me, but I've been doing this
about you. I love that it frightens you. I love how raw and real and ridiculous you are in your human state. Like, I love how ridiculous and funny and neurotic you are. And then in your, just, you're so you, and then all of a sudden you turn into this, like, and it's just coming in. It's mind bending. I mean, it's happened to my family too, where you did.
Oh, that's right.
But it's like, it's so interesting. It's so
well, it becomes a very different thing. And of course you see that funny neurotic side because you're my friend, but I'm a really astute teacher too. I can be
outrageous
about my work, but yeah, I mean, I think because I don't know, I have no control over this, and I can't, the only thing I can control is turning it on or turning it off. So,
let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Give me a day in the life of
me,
Colette Baron-Reid. Give me a day in the life of, because you live a high frequency life. You've got so much going on. There's just so much going on. Do you have certain habits or rituals or practices that you do?
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what my morning is. So here's what my morning is. So this little one sleeps beside my head in a crate. So we're trying to train her, right? And then the other two dogs are in the middle. So big Coco Doozy comes and sits on my chest, and Sebastian licks my face. So I get up. I get up and I go downstairs and I get their little medicines, which they all have to have, and I line them all up in cream cheese, and then I bring them upstairs. Very mundane. People expect, oh, she talks to her spirit guides. No, I pick up the poop and I take them to the paper. Yes. And I make sure that, and then I make the coffee, and then my husband gets a coffee in bed, and I feed all three dogs, and they all have to have all their special things. I line them up, and then I make sure that they make their business, and then I get to meditate. So it's a ritual. And I literally do this every single morning, the exact same way at the exact time. But for me, the great gratitude for me is in the mundane. It's not in the very, that tremendous woo-woo experience of, I'm talking to angels. It's not the way it is for me. It's really about, and saying thank you. So the whole time I'm just saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, because that's my abracadabra, is thank you. No matter what's going on in my life, I want to say thank you. You do infinite love and gratitude, and I do thank you. So, and it's the same. It's like, it really is the same.
Gratitude, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's that simple. So when and then I sit in bed and I think about everything I'm grateful for, and that is a ritual for me every single day. Some days, when I go through phases where, like, for a month I'll meditate. I'll do deep meditation for like 90 minutes sometimes, or 40 minutes, like one or the other. And I'll go on a tangent that way for a while. Then I'll take a break and I'll meditate, a section of time for the day. So I have very specific things that I do every day. I work a lot. So I have always a lot of different projects on the go. And I personally answer my Facebook ad. Like, nobody does my social media for me but me. So, and when people write my blog, and I make sure that I pay attention to that energy. Within that, I mean, it's a very boring day, to be quite honest with you. And then I make sure I try to do some yoga. I always go for a walk. And then I still do readings and intuitive coaching for a living. Right. So, I will do, say, 10 hours a week. of that. And then the rest of it is writing. So I'm creating 4 new Oracle decks and, getting ready for workshops and things like that. And then I just prepare for my next event. So, and then that takes me 10 hours. And then I feed the dogs 2 times that day and give them more medication and pick up their poop because the little one has pooping problems. Right?
And so in the day in the life as you're picking up poop and you do a lot and you hold the space for a lot of people and you being present, and rather than somebody writing in on your social media, you're interacting and connecting and
I want to hold space for people. I figure that people come to me. We each have our followers for different reasons. So I love teaching. Teaching is my most favorite thing to do. So if I don't have a class going, I'm always having some kind of a connection to my tribe, if you will. I like Facebook. I still haven't figured out Instagram, but I really enjoy the interaction between people. And I tend to do these real and raw videos. I think you mentioned that I'm real and raw, and I do them because I pull a card. I pull an Oracle card every single day for people, and I do that, every day. I forgot to mention that too. That's the other first thing that I do when I wake up is pull their card. And then I think about the card, and then I try to help people by shooting a video, like a 2-minute video of ways that they could apply that card of the day to their life. So it really helps people understand the nature of oracles as well. So there's always something I'm doing that relates to my work that helps people empower themselves, because that's really what it's all about for me. Even mediumship is about forgiveness, and it's about gratitude and love, but it's also about a shift in consciousness that people get and I'm hoping that I am the conduit for a change in their consciousness, because it can alter somebody in a way that's profound. So my feeling is how do I help the living after they have had a shocking moment of forgiveness with the dead that are not dead, right?
And people come to you because they're in shock and they're stressed and they've had a loss that is traumatic. And just that being said, like what's your view about what this thing called stress is? Like what is stress from your perspective?
Stress is when, well, for me, I can tell you, stress is a lot of things. I mean, I teach a class called SOAR, stress, overwhelm, anxiety relief, and it's when we are overly empathetic to the world and we feel too much of the world, we can have tremendous stress from that, where and I think the world is moving at such a velocity that it's hard for human beings to catch up. So stress comes from that. Stress also comes from not being grounded in the moment and living too far in the future with ambition or nostalgia of the past. So I think stress comes from that. And I do think that the greatest stress comes from not being present. And also by running old patterns. I mean, I think that's the biggest one, because that's my work is a lot about helping people remove their old patterns, and you do a lot of work because it gets stored in the body, etc. And I'm more about the mind. So what goes on in the mind and how we think and how that affects us, and so. I know for me too, I can get very overwhelmed, and so stress for me comes from doing too much, thinking too much, and feeling too responsible, etc. But I think all of us have our own version of stress, but I think at the end of the day, it's because we're not fully present, and we have too many attachments to the stories that we tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and that happens often to people where things go on, and based upon what goes on, it becomes a story. And yeah, and we only
it becomes a story that we keep retelling through our actions and the precipitation of our motives. Like we don't realize that the automatic pilot that goes, and sometimes you helped me tremendously a number of times. If I can talk about a couple of things.
Well,
you don't want to talk about that yet.
I'm happy to talk about anything, but I really want to talk about because in my mind it's like stress is such a pinnacle experience for so many people, and it's why they come to you. And at the same time, you recognize your calling. Here you are as a very high functioning spiritual being in your human body, holding a space as a teacher, as a author, as
information catalyst.
total transformation as the oracle, you know, here you are. To me, that just doesn't happen.
No.
And to me, and my question is, from your heart, what would you say happened or didn't happen that was your defining moment where you recognize, this is who I'm here to be?
Oh,
You know, what would you
I
say?
think,
What's a defining moment for Colette Baron-Reid's life for you to show up in your life as a result? You know,
I mean, I've had a lot of defining moments. I think the first defining moment came when I didn't understand it. And that was when I was raped when I was 19, because that was the first time where I was very crucially aware that I could dissociate from myself, that I could leave my body and observe. So that was the first time where I got an understanding of what observation from a different part of my psyche would be like. Even though it was traumatic and it was terrible and I didn't know how to process it. But I look back on that moment, that was a pivotal moment because it gave me a skill. And that skill is what I use today doing readings, which is I'm able to step beside myself and watch. So it was a way to protect myself to not have any feelings, right? And to just be numb and watch. So that's what happens to me when I can do a reading. It's like I go to the same spot almost geographically in the room. I go up and over.
up and over. So
up and over.
So the moment of experiencing a rape where you went up and over, that became the catalyst for you now to hold a space for other people that experience loss, trauma, shock,
Yeah.
for them to start to create their own defining moments.
Correct. And the next one, oh, that's a really good. I hope this is on tape. I'd like to hear that back. That was the one. Getting sober was another. So hitting bottom in a drug dealer's basement when I hadn't slept or bathed in a week. Crawling around on my hands and knees. My teeth were loose in my mouth. I had my gums were bleeding. I had jaundice. I was super skinny. That was the only good part. Being a cocaine addict, you're thin. Anyway, that was a moment of truth where I couldn't lie to myself anymore. So that was another thing when I realized I had to surrender my life to God, and I never looked back. And that was 30 years ago, because I just turned 30 years clean and sober. So, and that was another one of the defining moments where I knew that my life could be something other than what was. And I didn't know what it would be. I had no clue how it would be. I just knew that there was a power greater than myself that knew. And that was, I feel, the greatest and most important defining moment of my life, because that's like a template of my defining moments. Only as I carried on with those kind of defining moments, they were more about purpose than they were about complete and absolute surrender to the highest good according to Spirit's will. Very different, because then it became defining or refining who I was and why I was here is a different thing. So the next one, I think, was when I failed miserably at music. And then I got my record deal anyway, years later, when I didn't care or want it. And I got a worldwide record deal with EMI Music, recorded a couple albums, great critical acclaim. But it was, a time where I just was wrong timing, and I just wasn't cut out for the business. So the one thing I thought I would only be my entire life, the only thing I ever wanted, and I got it. I worked with an amazing producer in LA, and the music still stands up today, was something that I gave up because it was like I wasn't willing to do what it took to stay there. So it was, and it was when I was in this split thing, like I was doing very, very well as an intuitive, but I really didn't want to be an intuitive. I would say, I don't really do this. I'm really a singer. Don't come back next year. Sorry, I'm not yawning. I'm not tired. I think I forget to breathe. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then I was like, oh, wow, I really am an intuitive. Okay. And then literally I got a book deal a year later. So with Hay House. And then another defining moment came when I Oh, there's a bunch of them now. When I left Hay House temporarily for another publisher, a big publisher for a lot of money, when I realized that money wasn't the right the right thing. Like I proved to myself that I could be with this fantastic big publisher, etc. And it was excellent money, but it didn't make me happy. And I missed my tribe, and I wanted to be with the people that I knew. And there was really a family there. But I had to define myself and come back fully whole. I had to do the hero's journey and the heroine's journey. I had to go inward and really define who I really was, and not be somebody who was looking to get something, but somebody who could contribute. So I went back to Hay House as a contributor, as opposed to somebody before where I was like, do you like me so far? Like the little dog, by that big dog. Hi, do you like me? Do you like me so far? Hey, hey.
I was wondering what you were saying as far as when you're doing readings with people and you're in the flow of it and you're a step back, and then that part of you who's looking for acknowledgement. But
Yeah, it's not there now. And that's even funnier. So, and that was the other thing. So, and the next one was, okay, because I had still not been in Hay House at this point. I had a very serious motorcycle accident, which I called you from the hospital, if you remember. And before the doctor, he had to hit that while I was on the operating or whatever it was, that I made them give me a phone to call you and do a lifeline with me before they did anything to me. While I was in the hospital in emergency, I called you, Darren. And it really helped.
Darren, I was just in a motorcycle accident, and I'm like, what? I'm like in between working with clients, and my phone rings. I always answer for you, and are you okay? I don't know. Just do a lifeline with me right now.
Well, at that point, I had a huge clot in my leg. Like I stood up, and it was like a giant alien baby came out of my leg. It was the most scariest thing, and I completely fainted. Right? And I'm like, I couldn't believe that. And then, my leg's deformed now, whatever. I'm older, and I don't care if anybody sees me in a bikini. Nobody's going to look at my legs now. But anyway, so that was very traumatic, I have to say, because I was in bed for 3 months.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had been on the Dr. Phil show a couple of times, and had a lot of really negative feedback from the trolls, right? Like that, which I didn't know what a troll was. I thought it was just me. So I didn't realize that everybody had, anybody who'd kind of risen in their stature would get horrible things thrown at them, like either, in our case, of course, the skeptics who say we're frauds, and then the or intellectual sophisticates that says this is bullshit. Oops, beep. Or then the born again Christians, or religious fundamentalists who believe that I am the spawn of the devil. So all of that happened to me right after that, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. So I decided I would just work as a business consultant, because I was very successful at that with a few clients. I love doing intuitive business strategy. I'm so good at it, and I really enjoy working with leaders and influencers. And I thought that I'm just going to get out of this whole woo-woo part of the business. And and it was funny because that was like a week before the accident. So I had time to sit in bed. And then the next defining moment came, even though I still was trying to get that off the ground.
Your spirit wouldn't even let you escape it. If you wanted to get out of it, it wasn't about you. You're going to have to sit there and really think about this decision you think you're about to make, right?
Yeah. But I got a chance. To work in a really amazing context with all these extraordinary business people from Google and Mashable, and all the really hip, cool media and tech and business, right? And I got to speak at this thing that they were all at, like a mini TED. And I'm like, it's like a dream. And I'm like, all I'm thinking in my head is, one of these things is not like the other. And that was me.
Oh boy.
So I'm like, why did I want to go here again? What the heck am I doing? Like, I don't feel comfortable here. And all they all wanted me to do was do a reading for them anyway. So I was like, okay, maybe this is not the right direction. And then I had one last woo-woo event that I had contracted and I had already said yes to. And I thought no one would come. It was minus 47-degree weather. It was in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And I did the 3 hours of the most profound mediumship of my entire career. And I had my assistant with me, and that was a defining moment where I was like, I don't have a right to withhold this from anyone. I do not have a right. I do not have a right to decide what's best for me. And I called my husband, that 30 grand we spent on that, on, on this brand consulting. I think we have to go back. And I just realized I had to take my balls out of my purse and just get a tougher backs, because I thought, you know what, they're going to have to come, like, just bring it on. If you're going to pick at me, which they did in Edmonton, or, threaten me, which they have, and, or do any of those things that happen to a lot of people when they get successful and they get more media savvy. Like, I had to say, like, screw it. I am what I am, and I'm supposed to do this for people. And I'm going to trust that Spirit's going to look after me.
An infinite love and gratitude to that, because I tell you something, and I heard Brene Brown say this once. It's like, those people on the sidelines who boo and hiss and say stuff. Until you get in the ring, be quiet.
Right.
You're choosing to be in the ring. How
Yeah.
awesome, Colette. How awesome. And because it is what it is. I know that when I woke up to the LifeLine Technique, there was a part of me who's like, just let this be something that I just go back to bed and it never happened. But when I started to do blood studies and I started to see time and time again change started to happen, it's like, oh my God, I can't hide from it. I got to write about it. I got to talk about it. And then either truth is truth. And all great truths, George Bernard Shaw, begin as blasphemies. And, right.
Ooh.
And that's the nature of it. It really is. It's the nature of it. And so it's one thing to have a calling, but it's another thing to have the courage, the balls in the purse, and actually go out there and be your authentic self and have people like that woman whose father said, got to do the dance, or my wife Sarit, and her grandfather came through. I mean, we were both in tears at that. It's like out of nowhere.
Right. That was cool. And I didn't even know your wife was Swedish.
I know.
I thought she was Jewish.
Far from it. But, it's so amazing is that, and it's more of the courage. And that, to me, that's what this talk is all about, is, having this mastermind conversation with someone who has chosen to be authentic, which is you, Colette. And, we met in Toronto at a Hey House I Can Do It, and have been friends
ever since.
Yeah,
because I remember going to you, because when I first started touring with Hay House, I got very severe plantar fasciitis, if you remember, and I flew to Chicago with Mark. I remember that we flew to Chicago to see you. And you took me through a process, and we had this insane waking past life regression where I saw so clearly the things I was afraid of, which is that I would be killed for my work. And how many lives that had happened when I was betrayed in the same way over and over again. It was visceral. I mean, it was so real, so real. So, and then over the phone, we did a lifeline, and my foot unraveled over the phone. My tendons went bing, 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 right while you were doing the lifeline. And I, of course, attribute it to you did it to me, but you really help, like you like I do. We empower people to self-heal through their consciousness, right? There's a whole different level of consciousness, and we do it in different ways, but that was shocking to me that could work. And that, because it was so real, and by releasing my fears that were so unconscious, so deeply embedded in the subconscious, and that was under there, that was driving my experience, because obviously I was very afraid when I was on tour. I was very afraid of being in front of all these thousands of people, because Sylvia Browne was a very controversial person, and she and I are very different, and she had rabid fans that could have given two hoots about whether I was on stage or not. So there was a lot of pressure, and I was really scared. So that was interesting. And then years later, I think the next time, I mean, we've had a number of lifeline sessions, but what I found tremendously was when my body would respond to something, like when Beanie died, and I went deaf. You remember that? And I went to, I don't know how many specialists for my ears. And no one could tell me what was wrong. And I was completely stone deaf in my left ear. like nothing was working. And it was so, it threw me off because I had vertigo. And I remember calling you, and you took me through a process and uncovered something through your, all the different things that you do, testing, and you have all your very specific process that is miraculous. And you hit on this thing about when I was 4, and of something I overheard. And because I didn't know intellectually, I blamed myself for Beanie's death, but that's what we uncovered. And literally the next day, my ear cleared up. So what you have discovered, and I have firsthand experienced it, same thing. I mean, I don't know what happened during the accident. You probably saved my life. I don't know. And another time was when we were away, and I was very stressed out, and I was feeling a lot of fear and angst about this particular person. And I went to see you about it. And it was so fascinating what came up, what just like came up in the body, because you hold stress in your body, and it shows up as stress when you're out of balance. And it was so fascinating to me, that those stories, take root, and they show up because the body is the subconscious. That's what I know in my work too, that you're in the physical body is going to manifest what you don't bring into your awareness. It's there. And most of us have no clue that these stories exist because we don't all have access to that memory. It's not like you can just pull up a memory and say, oh yeah, I remember when I was 4, I overheard something.
Well, we have access to the memory like you have access as medium.
Yeah.
So in the Lifeline, we call them portals. So
right.
No problems, only portals. And the portals are, whether it be the pain in the body speaks the mind. It's a reflection of the mind.
Yeah.
Our relationships or our behaviors are a reflection of the mind. And what's challenging or adventurous, however you look at it, is that most of the mind is invisible. It's subconscious. And so unless we have a way to translate it, then it just stays in its reactive patterns when these parts of ourselves aren't processed. So it's fascinating.
And I think what I find really interesting and similar is what you just said now. And I actually have a similar statement actually for my weekend workshop in July, which is about the invisible is where all the action is, right? And you have to find a way to translate what is invisible into something that's palatable or understandable. Because regardless of the fact that our 5 sensory world and intellectual world and materialism is actually the illusion, right? That we see that this is our primary reality, the world of form, but actually the world of form is the last rung on all the different realms.
The last rung.
The very last one. And
we focus on that. And we want to make that go away, but there's below the surface.
It's below the surface. So exactly. And so your work actually allows the body to have a dialogue. Like it's a fascinating dialogue. Whereas my work, I send people to you when I see this stuff about their body, and I say, like, I'm not the right person. I can tell them what's going on mentally, and I can tell them the stories, but I don't know how to unleash it for them unless it's a specific thing that I can work on my process with. But I can't, if something comes up in my body, I can't work it through with the envision process. I call you for the Lifeline.
Right.
Because I have to. It's like why would I go somewhere else when I know that and I have no clue how this works. You and your silly colored glasses, and we stand, and you'd stay after me and all this stuff. And then we put the green glasses on and the blue glasses on, and and walking and thing. And then I start laughing hysterically because I get high as a kite when you and I do it. And it's the funniest thing. And I have no freaking idea. If somebody says to me, how does it work? I'm like, I have no clue, but it works.
Right. It's just a step-by-step process. And
it works.
For raising consciousness, right?
Yeah. And so whatever it is, I think, sorry, I've got my computer on a big blanket, just so y'all know, because it's the only place that's comfortable for me, and it's sliding off. So I feel, you also have a calling, obviously, and our callings are similar in that we were given a gift. In your case, you're the download of the Lifeline, which is after years of study, you synthesized a number of things that brought this forward, right? And so we can help shift consciousness. You can, and I can, in a different way. And I think that is something that, however we do it, is crucial to human evolution. I think when I say that, I'm not saying that you and I are crucial to human evolution, but the more of us out there
choosing to show up is crucial to human evolution.
That's right.
and
That's right.
make a change in your behavior, make a change in your body, and you become a catalyst for that evolutionary change in humanity.
Yes, because it is like if I'm not stressing out about my ear or my foot, then I'm no longer going to be giving that ripple effect to other people, right?
Yeah.
So my thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, behaviors, body, all inform the manner in which I'm going to show up in the world. So if I show up in the world to cause drama because I have all this stuff, or continuously solidifying a role as a victim, then I'm going to invite more of the same. And so that's why we heal. That's why our own personal healing is a service to other people.
It is. It is. And let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because you know that I teach the LifeLine certification program and
Yes.
educate people to utilize the LifeLine for themselves, or those people that are, whether it be mediums or do coaching work with other people. Why would you recommend learning the LifeLine, especially to your tribe, to your community? Why would you recommend?
I think it's a really great, let's say for my tribe, meaning the people who are coaches, for example, I think it's a great extra tool, because it can really, because I think that, especially with self-healing and self-awareness, I think that's so crucial. If you know something's up and you know how that you have a tool, a skill set that enables you to unplug from some of the stuff that's going on really quickly. I think it's a really important tool to have. But I think, just for my fans, just people who follow me, it's just the most curious thing. I think it's like, why not learn something else? I mean, we're taught how to go to buy aspirin, right? We're told how to, oh, what if we got CPR? So we know that, but what if we could learn an extraordinary self-healing concept? Why wouldn't we want to have that for our kids, or for my dog, or myself when I need it? You don't need to be a coach, a therapist, or a healer to actually, of course.
Your doggies agree with you.
My doggies agree with me.
So you learn it so you can work with us, Colette.
That's right. Exactly. And the doggies are, oh my gosh. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a fascinating thing, and it works. I think that's the other thing. It just works. It works. I don't know what else to say. It just really works. Yeah. And I would be interested in knowing why it works and how it works and doing it on myself. So I just don't have time to take your certification class, but I'm hoping to take it in my spare time if you were willing, because I am fascinated. And my husband took it. I mean, it's really fascinating, and you will learn in the class that you teach. Obviously, you're going to be teaching people how the pieces put together. So there is some method to your madness.
16 steps, the manifestation system, 16 steps of the LifeLine for raising it. So yeah, it is a step-by-step process. It's a moving meditation of the subconscious mind.
Coolio. Well, I highly recommend this to everybody. I really do.
It's so cool.
Especially since you're too busy and they can't phone you. So it's the next best thing to calling you is call yourself.
Right on. So I just want to thank you so much for you and just being you and making just a huge difference in the world and just shining so bright, even though, it's like I heard somebody say recently, it's like it takes 20 years to become an overnight success.
Right.
Right. And it's like
27 for me. And I'm still not an overnight success.
Thank you for putting in, the passion and following your purpose and living true to your calling and embracing the darkest nights of your soul to help other people to shine so bright. It is just awe-inspiring. I love you. And
thank you. Me too, you. And it's been a real pleasure and privilege to be part of this and to get to know you and to, and also to see how you have evolved your work and how you're teaching in Australia now and in New Zealand and all over the world. And that is the most exciting thing. And because I've had a chance to experience it firsthand and plus get to know you, like you're like my brother. So, and we started out as colleagues and I was just,
and now we're family.
Now we're family. Yeah. I know. Anyway, anything for you. And I really believe in your work and otherwise I wouldn't do this. So.
Well,
excellent.
I'm grateful for you just being who you are. I love you.
Thank you. Love you back.
Have yourself the most amazing rest of your day. Give your puppies kisses and your beautiful husband.
Yes, nighttime.
From me.
Infinite love and gratitude.
Infinite love and gratitude.
Mwah. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did with Colette Baron-Reid. And if you'd like to learn more about the LifeLine Technique, be sure to click on this link so that you can receive 3 awesome videos that will teach you about muscle reflex testing, how we're able to speak with the subconscious mind, the triune brain theory, understanding how our brain, how our nervous system, how our mind, how our heart are all interacting in ways that affect our behavior, our biology, but ultimately how to awaken us to living a life of intention, creating a real change, sustainable change, big change in your life. And the last, secret sauce of the LifeLine Technique. You'll find out on that 3rd video. So click on the link below and we'll see you on the other side. Infinite love and gratitude.